The Allturn 100-watt plastic welding gun. I must say, for what you get for the price, this is a very, very good buy. You get a lot of stuff packed in. So you get this hard case. You'll get your instruction sheet, which comes with some diagrams and shows you how to use each different staple. You will get this bag of consumables, which is stainless steel mesh for very thin metals, or sorry, very thin plastic. If you had two thin pieces of plastic, which this is pretty thin, but if you had two of them, you had a crack down the middle, you would cut just a little sliver, put it over the crack. You would use your hot knife and press down on it and melt it down into that plastic and let it cool, or let off the button, let it cool, and then move to another section. You get this heat transfer tape, which is to protect your surface underneath as you do some plastic welding. Sandpaper. You get a large variety of different plastics here. We have nylon, we have TPO, TEOP, TOPE, polyurethane. They're all labeled. You get 2 rods of each flavor there, and then you get a large variety of colors of this flatter welding rod. You get 200 of each style of staple. There's 2 styles for corners. One is designed for outside corners, and another one is designed for corners, like inside corners. You have what they call flat staples, and then you have some wave staples, which seem to be my favorite. You also get a pair of dikes to trim them off, although it will not trim them down flush because of the chamfer. So you'll need to get some flush cutting dikes, or use like a Dremel or something like that to cut off the ends once you've got them in place. But they are a good solid pair of dikes. And then you have your welding gun here, which has this little LED light to light your surface, as well as if this is getting too hot, it'll shut down. That light goes out, you know you've let it get too hot, and you're gonna have to let it cool. So this is the hot knife. They just slide over the outside. You could use the edge like a knife to cut something, whether it be plastic after you've heated it up, whether it be nylon rope, and then you can also use it to smooth out the plastic surface after you've welded it. You can also use a little bit more of your plastic welding rod, and you can pull a little off to help fill in holes and gaps. When you use the staples, you will place them in these little holes, which just completes your circuit, just like your hot knife does. That'll heat up and glow orange, and then you would press that down into the plastic. The goal is to get about halfway between the thickness of your plastic. That's why it's important, if your plastic is really thin, to use the steel mesh, because the staples, although they're not super thick, they are thicker. And then when you're done, you would pull it out and you would trim off the ends that stick up above your surface. Another neat feature that came with this set is this utility knife. Now, I'm a little bit impressed with this to be a freebie, because unlike a lot of other disposable, what you would consider to be a disposable utility knife, this one is made of a combination of hard plastic and metal. So when you push this out, Nice thing about these is you can get extra length. So if you had something a little thicker, like spray foam or something that you're trying to cut, when that end gets dull, you would just, instead of having to change the blade, that little line, press down like that backwards, and that will snap that end off, and then you would have a fresh new tip. Also, it has this locking knob. You turn that clockwise to lock it down, and now your blade will not move. So if you had multiple cuts, it's locked in a position. You don't have to worry about it slipping on you. Another neat feature about this, if you keep using and breaking off the tips and you get to the end, just like that, it falls out. All you have to do to get a new blade is pull it all the way back until it stops. And then pull forward or push forward, and there you go. It picks up a new blade. That's a pretty neat feature. Something I don't see with a lot of these kind of blades. Most of the time they're not meant to last for very long, but this one seems to be fairly well made. So you have 5 blades that have come inside of the storage area. When you use them all up, you're not done with that. You don't have to throw it away, because you can buy these blades in most hardware stores and big box stores. So you just would simply push this button. This lock raises up. Pull back on this here. This button you want to bring back with it. Pull it all the way out. You can then take your blade and just set it to the side. There's a little lock depression right there. And then you are free to load more blades back in. This is a nice feature that I haven't seen with a whole lot of other what I would call cheaper utility knives, but for a freebie, I'm kind of impressed. So you would, to put it back in, you would get started, and then you would want to remember to put your button back on, and you're going to depress it down. Once you get it started like this, you're going to press it down to make sure it goes underneath the metal track, and then you would push this forward, and make sure you push this button back down, or when you go to come back to catch a new blade, this will come completely out, and then everything will fall apart. But I just thought for a freebie, this is a pretty good little deal. So with everything that you get in this kit, it's a very, very good buy. You will not go wrong. It gets a little warm, and it might have a tendency to overheat and shut off if you're welding for a long period of time. But in the instructions, it does tell you once you've heated up a staple, put it in, and then smoothed it down, you're supposed to let it cool for 15 minutes. Little inconvenient to have to wait that long. It would be better if they found a way to keep it from overheating. But for the money and for small repairs, I think it'll work great. Now, if you're a body shop or something like that, I don't know if it'll work for you, but big breaks and large welding surface may not be the best, but it will definitely work for the home do-it-yourselfer and hobbyist. Definitely worth the money. It's a good buy. You won't be disappointed. Have a good day.
Here's my review of the plastic welder by Allturn. It's what you basically get with the kit. You get a little heat tip that goes on there. You get a pair of diagonals, which are the wrong pliers for this type of project, a knife, and then they give you various types of staples and then instructions. And while this is called a plastic welder, the better name for this would be plastic hot stapler, because that's, you're not really welding in the sense of the word. You're putting a hot staple into two or more pieces of plastic that you're trying to put back together. And I'm going to demo this. I'm going to tell you why it's only going to get 4 stars and not 5. And that's actually not having a thing to do with the actual product of the gun. It has to do with they chose the wrong pliers, and we'll go over that. So if you can see, there's basically, you load the staples into the gun. Be careful not to press the trigger because it will get crazy hot and you'll burn yourself. And then the staple just loads like that. You can tap it to make sure it's in. When you press the trigger, you're going to see it heat up, and then you're free to push it into plastic. Now, I don't have a broken piece of plastic here, but imagine if it was cracked in two and I wanted to essentially staple this. This is what I'm going to do for this. So I'm going to press the trigger, and it's going to heat up. I don't know if you can see it smoking a little bit. And then once I get it heated up, I can push it down into there, let the trigger go, blow on it a little, and it comes out. And now I've got a staple, if you can see, in there. Staples countersunk and all that. And here's where the 4-star comes in, right? They included these type of pliers. These are, nothing wrong with these. These are decent quality, but they're diagonals. And the problem with diagonals is, on this, I want to flush cut that off. I want to totally go flush straight across there. With these, I don't know if you can see from this, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a flush cut because there's like a little ramp there on the backside, and all diagonals are made this way. So you can use the diagonals they give you, or the better thing to do is go and get, now they're either going to call them precision flush cutter. Over here they just call them flush cut. It doesn't matter whose brand. Amazon sells these as well as your local hardware store. And I'm going to show you the real differences. So on the first one here, I'm going to take my flush cutters and I'm going to go to town. I'm going to basically flush cut this as best I can. Up and off it goes. And I don't know if you can see this, and I didn't even do a good job, but it's a pretty flush cut. Right? There's not a whole bunch sticking up, and I'm sure if I worked with it and I got even better, this is my first time using these, I can do even better than that. So here we go with the diagonals. I'm going to do the best I can trying to cut them with the diagonals. And I don't know how well this is going to show, but you should be able to see. It's not going to focus too well. One of them, geez, I'm trying to get the lighting right. One of them, you can see there's a big 1/4-inch piece sticking up, and then the other side is basically flush. There's a little nub on there, and I could even work it more with the pliers, where this one is going to have much more leftover material sticking up. It's hard to focus on this, but this one is almost flush, and this one sticks up a significant amount more. You can see with my finger there. There's just about flush there, at least a 1/4-inch. So that's the only reason why I didn't give this 5 stars. Everything else works great. What you can probably see is, for my kit, these are going to go somewhere else where they're actually needed. And my kit's going to have probably, I'm going to keep both of them just because I don't know which of the 2 flush cuts are better. But, you know, save yourself some trouble unless you want to be getting out your Dremel tool after every time you patch with one of these hot staples, and you're going to want to have to grind that down with a Dremel or some other tool. You can save yourself the time by getting the flush cuts. But like I said, the gun's great. I only use the squiggle staple. I haven't had a chance for the other ones yet. I just got the kit. I have no idea what I'm going to use that knife for. And this, I have an idea what it can be used for. I just don't know if I'm going to need that. But for putting these staples in and just, you know, doing hot staples to fix plastic, I got a trash can that I'm going to be fixing next week. I fixed a plastic hubcap earlier today. It works. It does what it's supposed to, and it's solid. The only other suggestion I could make is if you can, much like woodworking projects, glue. You still use plastic glue or super glue and glue the plastic together the best you can. If you have to, hold it and then come in and put a staple, a hot staple on top just to, you know, solidify the joint. There it is from the back side. There it is from that side. And that is my review.
As you see, it works. Yeah, this was my first try. Second, and this is more, it looks more better. Like I'm using for the car, this one, and it's pretty hard. So it's a really good tool.